about manifestation and depression, mental health, fame, fortune, the purpose of life, the meaning of life. And one of the things that I struggle with is the intersection of an inhumane society that doesn't allow the majority of us to meet our basic needs, and having to reconcile that with the belief that we can absolutely experience enlightenment regardless of our financial circumstances. During the pandemic, I was listening to Deepak Chopra. He was doing daily lives, and I got on one in the middle of meetings, like these back-to-back virtual meetings that I was doing, working as a clinical supervisor for the county, tending to my staff and our work in the community there, and needing lots of nourishment for myself. So I was listening to Deepak and daily Dharma talks from Plum Village at that time. And so anyway, I got on live and I had this feeling, like this lightning bolt feeling, that I was going to have this live interaction with Deepak. And it happened. And I had asked him, hey, can, individuals from poverty experience enlightenment? And he, out of millions of people from around the world that were chatting live with him, plucked my question out and said, absolutely, the meek shall inherit the earth. I wrote a blog post about it, and I can leave that linked. My argument, and it was great, it was a great moment, and whatever, here's this Brahmin caste, global influencer responding to my question about, hey, what's the deal with this? And he said yes, and that's great. One of the things, though, as I continued to listen to the Jim Carrey motivational whatever conglomeration, it's like little snippets of interviews he's done, is Jim was born into poverty as well, and he sought fame to get his mother out of suffering. So she had a variety of long-term health issues, and he invented a lot of his characters that he ended up, becoming famous for, trying to cheer her up and end her suffering. And so now he considers himself a Buddhist, because Buddhism is all about pursuing paths that help us to end the suffering of others. And so that's great, that's beautiful. And then obviously he became Jim Carrey, like the iconic, film actor, and discovered, hey, fame and fortune isn't where you find your true self, your identity. So he found the path of enlightenment after, achieving all this fame and success and being able to meet his basic needs and then some, as well as discovering in that process that he had ultimately landed on this Buddhist path of ending the suffering for millions of people who watch his film and love his film and get reprieve from the world by being entertained by him. And now he's like, oh, and now I'm enlightened. And this is a pattern I see so often, right? Like we always hear about oh, I was in this corporate job and, climbing this invisible ladder and, not finding any sense. I lost my sense of purpose, lost my sense of self, this, that, or the other. And then I took all my millions that I made from working in my awesome corporate job and, hung out with whatever Eckhart Tolle for a couple of months in Costa Rica and did some plant medicine. And now I'm enlightened. And it's like, oh, well, congratulations that you had all that free time and money to do that. That being said, on the flip side, there are those of us who have nothing, sitting on, the side of the road, who also experience enlightenment but can't meet basic needs, so it's like the shoe needs a foot and the foot needs a shoe. And does it really require us to manifest basic needs, right? So it's like, okay, great, I'm enlightened, but I can't pay rent. I'm enlightened, but I can't manifest past these concrete barriers that require time and money. And I continue to wrestle with that, that it's like, am I, in terms of spiritual path and awakening, is it that we haven't done enough and haven't fully achieved that sense of enlightenment, and that's why we're stuck? Or is it that there are real systemic barriers preventing so many of us from, whose hearts are aligned and our energies are aligned, and we live in gratitude every day, but can't get past this invisible concrete barrier, and yesterday I met with a spiritual practitioner, we'll say, who I love and hold love for and will continue to hold love for. But the reading that came through essentially was that I'm not trying hard enough. I'm half-assing it, was what the message that came out was. And I returned that to sender with love, because I'm sorry, what? Like, I'm sorry, no. So I don't receive that message. I return to sender, that, you know, so often those of us who are working towards something which is usually rooted in stability, the need for survival, right, are told, well, you're stuck, or you're not trying too hard, or you're not trying hard enough, or you're trying too hard. And it's like, okay, Goldilocks, like, help me get it just right then, right? Like, where's that sweet spot? What does that look like? Sorry, I put chia seed in my teeth. And I don't have time to edit this. So what is the sweet spot? How many of us, you know, the other thing that Jim talked about in the thing I just listened to, is like the mask, right? That was one of his famous characters, the mask that so many of us wear. How many of us are gentrifying ourselves every day, tap dancing for the man, because we need jobs, because we need rent and food and basic needs? And as a clinician, I know, you know, that is contributing greatly to the epidemic of depression. What is depression? It is to press down our authentic self in exchange for a paycheck, in exchange for safety. It's not safe for many of us to be our authentic selves in this world, right? God forbid we say what we really think, what we really, you know, believe. Yikes, right? And how many examples of that can we think of throughout history and here lately? So it's a real privilege to not only have our basic needs be met without having to sacrifice our authenticity. How many of us get to do that? And where, and I don't know, where in the matrix does alignment, enlightenment fit into that equation? And I think, you know, again, going back to Buddhism, the Noble Eightfold Path and right livelihood, it's great if you can personally manifest $10,000 out of thin air. It's great if you have personally like learned the magic trick that, you know, what's the chick, Scoville and Neil Goddard and all these, you know, whatever people that have written about manifestation. It's great if you've learned that alchemy, that magic trick, that you just, you know, pulled a Ferrari out of your ass or out of your vortex. Like, congratulations, that's awesome. But like, what about for individuals that are here in this 3D reality, who can't do that and are suffering and having their SNAP benefits that are going to disappear in a couple of months because they're considered able-bodied, but no one's taking into account their mental health, their mental capacity, as part of their holistic wellness picture, right? And saying, okay, well, you have to work X number of hours in order to continue to receive these paltry benefits that we're going to like nickel and dime out to you. Why are we not manifesting a more humane society? That's all I'm trying to say. For people that, you know, don't all people deserve housing? Don't all people deserve food? Don't all people deserve some autonomy, some choice about where they live, what clothing they wear, and what food they put in their bodies? And I think regardless of our status, yeah, we can achieve enlightenment, but then what do you do with it? Sit on the side of the road and eat microplastics? So those are some of my thoughts. Flipping the script on, you know, everybody who says, oh, now that I, you know, have millions of dollars and whatever time and money can achieve enlightenment, and now I realize I don't need any of it. But it's great that I have this mansion and all these properties that I can, you know, do cool stuff with, even though they don't define me anymore. And it's like, well, that's great. Congratulations. What does it look like when you flip the script? Those of us that, you know, this is all wide open, and food and housing and inequality are still rampant, along with depression and anxiety and a hunger to express our authentic self in this 3D reality. And those are my thoughts. Okay, I love you.